This episode is sponsored by Dr. Chrono by EverHealth, the #1 mobile all-in-one EHR. Built specifically for medical practices, Dr. Chrono includes an integrated feature that powers a seamless payments acceptance experience. Dr. Chrono Payments offers multiple ways for patients to pay as well as insurance credit card processing. As a Dr. Chrono customer, you can easily activate our fully integrated payment solution that will streamline your cash flow and help you get paid anytime from anywhere. Deliver the best patient experience with a fast and easy way to collect payments. Visit drchrono.com/payments. That's drchrono.com/payments to learn more about Dr. Chrono today. Direct primary care is an innovative alternative path to insurance-driven healthcare. Typically, a patient pays their doctor a low monthly membership and, in return, builds a lasting relationship with their doctor and has their doctor available at their fingertips. Welcome to the My DPC Story podcast, where each week you will hear the ever-so-relatable stories shared by physicians who have chosen to practice medicine in their individual communities through the direct primary care model. I'm your host, Maryal Concepcion, family physician, DPC owner, and former fee-for-service doctor. I hope you enjoy today's episode and come away feeling inspired about the future of patient care, direct primary care. Today's episode is a special treat, and it is with great pride and honor that I reintroduce Dr. Amber Beckenhauer. Dr. Amber Beckenhauer is known by almost all of her patients as Dr. B. She grew up in the small Nebraska town of Ashland, where she now has a second location. She completed her medical degree at KCUMB in Kansas City, Missouri from 2004 to 2008 and finished family practice residency in Lincoln, Nebraska in 2011. In July of 2011, she moved to Blair with her family to begin employment at MCH and Health System. From 2011 to 2017, she not only practiced primary care at the Clinic for All Ages, but also delivered infants by vaginal or cesarean delivery, staffed the emergency room, served as medical director of the ER and Blair Clinic, and lastly, served as medical staff president before her departure. From 2018 on, she continues to help the local hospital by working in the ER and delivering babies vaginally and by C-section still. Dr. Beckenhauer enjoys teaching family practice residents in her spare time and started at Nebraska Medicine Clarkson Family Medicine Residency Program in the fall of 2018 to help promote the education of rural family practice. With her osteopathic medicine background, whole person healthcare resonates with her. It also drives her passion for integrative wellness and hormonal balance. To further her studies, she has completed courses for the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. Dr. Beckenhauer believes that passion starts with people, and we can all make a difference, one patient and person at a time.
Amber, Maryal.
So this is way better than Oprah and Uma, man. So Amber's got Amber, Maryal. You got to watch the Zoom to see it. And I got CALI-BRASKA.
A little tired, a little extra summit tired. Are we summit?
Oh my goodness.
Post-summit?
Post-summit. We are talking post-summit. It was so good. So
you ate a sushi train after I left and went back to Nebraska. Totally reserved that for after I was gone.
So pro tip for Summit 2024, which I will just drop this right now, is going to be one of the weekends after Father's Day in June of next year, potentially in Texas, potentially in Dallas is what I hear. The location is not nailed down to specifics, but it is going to be happening in the last 2 weeks of June after Father's Day next year. So hopefully more people can come. But oh my gosh, like my pro tip, getting back to that, is look at the hotel and then look at all the restaurants around it, because literally I don't know, on the last day we were there, my husband and I stayed until Monday. I was so tired from the night before that, because I was eating Ben & Jerry's ice cream in the lobby till like past midnight. Super worth it. But there was a sushi train restaurant literally like around the corner. And it was like, what the? I literally walked 2 miles to find a Starbucks that was open on Sunday, and there was nothing there, but there was a sushi train right there. So long story.
First to admit, town of 2000, I looked at Brooke and I said, what the hell is a sushi train? Amber, like a train that takes the sushi around. Sorry, didn't catch that one. I'm too busy running a business.
Too busy.
Primary care, running 3 of them, whatever.
Man. I'm bringing the Cali, you're bringing the Braska, man. That's pretty good. There was like one fish market in Omaha, like way out on like 132nd, and like not Dodge. People who have lived there will understand that. But there was like literally that you're bringing the Braska to the Cali, man. Crazy. Oh my God. So let's talk things that people actually want to hear. Oh my God. Okay. Good times. So
how awesome the DPC board did that was elected to put this show together. I mean, I was on the board last year and I thought we rocked it and it was super hard, but it was super awesome. And then I show up at this and I'm like, man, Davenport really stood up and helped elect people to be on that board. And I know we elected Davenport to run that this year. I cannot say enough. Amazing.
It was incredible. And literally every single person had great moments in addition to networking, because those are always great, but just the 301s were off the hook. And that's honestly where I was camping out most of the time. And I came back like super rejuvenated, super pumped and filled with all of this new knowledge as to how to improve my practice, because we're talking about everything under the DPC model. And so it's never, ever comparable to a regular, conference that we would go to as doctors. But I absolutely agree. The team that put this together, super, super, super kudos to all of you, because it was incredible and enjoyed by every single person. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
I by mistake actually went down a day early this year, which you informed me, Amber, this is the senior day and you did not sign up for it. Oh, okay. Check mark. So I got to play putt-putt golf in downtown Minneapolis with my best friend Brooke that rode with me. And that was awesome. We walked and we played putt-putt golf and we went to the Target that was only a block away, maybe twice. It was great. So I would definitely recommend going in a day early if you can, even if by accident. I mean, that really works. But like you said, even staying a day later, because everything that you're trying to really download in your brain and you're trying to catch up on a little sleep, or maybe you're trying to inform your husband how to become a DPC doctor because he is now going to be DPC. Yeah, dude, just whatever, all the things, right? All the things. But definitely there are strategic ways to do this so you don't have to come back completely exhausted.
Absolutely. And I think that the stress of I have to fit it all in was definitely eased up by the fact that, like we actually got to see each other this DPC Summit. Unlike last year where I was like, where have you been? And you were like, I've been on stage, and I completely did not know that. So clearly it was a different experience this year, but yeah, like we are family with distance between us most of the year. And it's really, really easy to just, talk, but you have to have time to recharge so you can keep talking without passing out. I totally fell asleep. My husband was telling me about his day and whatever. And I was like, And I woke up 3 hours later and I was like, well, there you go. So that's what happens when you don't recharge. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, like I mentioned this when Jeff Davenport and I did the preview to the Summit episode, but like I will stay now at the conference hotel rather than getting an Airbnb or whatnot, just because like that also adds to the ease of going to a conference. Like you just have to go up the elevator to get, change of clothes or the snacks that you didn't bring downstairs, whatever. But adding the day before and after really helped. I agree with you on that for sure.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you to Spruce Health for supporting the My DPC Story podcast. The ways we communicate have changed dramatically over the past decades, but technology and tools in healthcare have not kept pace. Patients want more access and digital convenience, as well as the ability to text their care teams. Care teams are inundated with more communication and rising expectations, but are still using tools and technology stuck in prior decades. Spruce Health created a solution for the tech-forward DPC practice by creating a communication product designed to serve both the patient and the doctor through intuitive HIPAA-compliant workflows, tagging, scheduled messages, and triage templates ready for use, whether you're on your phone or in the exam room. New users get 20% off for the first 12 months of a paid plan with code Maryal20. That's MARYAL20. So check out Spruce Health today at sprucehealth.com or check out the link in the show notes.
Well, and when you said DPC family, it truly is because, forever friends or family or whatever it is, how you were always able to just pick up right where you left off. Yeah. Same thing, like I was telling you, just with some of the health stuff going on, I was exhausted. And I love how you can walk by this big group of people that know and love you and you know and love them. And it's just kind of like, catch you tomorrow or catch you there. Yeah. There isn't like, oh, boo, you're not doing this, or everybody is just so accepting of everything all the time. They're just so involved in being able to have that chance to see each other because it's 1 or 2 times a year. And we all get along so well that it's like, well, that's fine. If you can't do anything today, we'll check you tomorrow and we'll go out with these 7 people tonight. That's the thing about our whole group is that we intermix and mingle so well. We're just collectively taking things from each other's knowledge banks and applying it to our own. Yeah, it's super cool. Super nerdy. Super cool,
nerdy, but like super nerdy in a good way, because for me, nerdy was like, man, this is like being in with my anatomy tank crew. Like it was so much fun. And what I'm talking about, because like that's your family, because in ours it was like Conception, Chrysler, Dang, Daniel, Detlinger, and like we would always be at like the Cece's Pizza or the Chinese restaurant. Oh my God. Heck yeah. Yep. CALI-BRASKA, CALI-BRASKA. And there ain't no Cece's Pizza out in California, I will tell you that.
I think they're all closed now, but yes.
Oh no. Well, it was just so, I mean, that how you described it is literally how it is. Cause it's like, plans fell through because, this happened or that happened or whatever. And it's like, you find somebody else like, hey, I'll text you. You want to come join us? Blah, blah. And I very much agree with you that it was like, most of us are recovering from the fee-for-service world. Let me put it that way, because everyone's affected by that. Yeah. So let me ask you this. What were some of your moments? Because I know you must have had at least one, if not like 20, where you had people who were new to the DPC Summit and were having aha moments in front of your eyes. What were some of those moments for you?
Well, I love it. I mean, you're right. They do have aha moments, but I think the biggest thing for me is that there are still times that we're talking to people that are not newbies that are having aha moments. And that just goes to show that entrepreneurs, and I obviously can't talk at 10 o'clock at night, but as entrepreneurs, like we are always in that creativity bank. And I don't know how it was in Arnold, but here in my neck of the woods, I lived in like this little pod of a hospital with 3 exam rooms, right? And the nurse desk. Yes, I ran up and down to the hospital and to the ER all day, every day, and to med staff meetings. But that is all I knew. It was this world that was created for me, and I didn't really have to think outside of that hospital. And now being an entrepreneur all day long, we are able to connect with people and change our environment in our own practice and do all these things. So every time you hear something from someone, it clicks. And I will tell you, one of my favorite was from you. And I already talked about it tonight when I was putting Rex to bed, because he has a little teddy bear that needs his ear sewed back on and his little limb is just hanging because Pedro, our dog, got a hold of it and ripped it off. So I said, Aunt Maryal has this idea to do a teddy bear clinic, and we are going to do one, and we're going to sew it all up. What do you think about that? And this is what my 3-year-old said, no joke, and I am not lying. He said, but mommy, what about your clinic? And I said, it's okay, we'll have the teddy bear clinic. And he said, I think your people will be mad at you. And I said, do you really think they'll be mad? I think they'll be mad at you. And I said, well, that's okay. Would you be mad if I didn't have my clinic? And he said, no, obviously I work too much. And I was like, well, how about we have our healthy human clinic and our teddy bear clinic? He goes, Okay. So we have got to get this teddy bear clinic underway because we got a teddy bear to fix, number one. And two, we have to do some of these exciting ideas to think outside the box. But for those of you that don't know what a teddy bear clinic is, Maryal was bringing this up. It was really a way to circumvent this whole process of trying to get kids not to have fears of coming into the doctor and just getting them used to being weighed and what stitches or Band-Aids and things might look like, and having them be involved in this. And it can be something super quick, like an hour. It can be 5 people chosen. It can be 20, but I'm always trying to think of ways to get my kids involved. And that is something I know that they would love and I can block time out for. So I'm really excited about that. That'll be one of our first. So that's one of my ahas that I loved. And then I really enjoy talking to some of the specialists that are now coming into the movement, because even though, again, we're primary care, they're specialty care, we've been here, done this now for a while. And some of our ideas are very relevant to them because we're still working together as specialists in primary care and trying to figure out how to do that process. So just giving some of those ideas to some of the specialists that I had met along the way this weekend, those are some of my ahas, and I'm sure we have plenty more. What about yours?
Well, totally. And, I'll mention some of mine, but what I love when you talk about the specialists in particular is, like, I was asking Dr. Laura Kinney about.
Oh, and she rocked it on her
totally.
speech, by the way, or her talk, just rocked it. She's so real, transparent, and direct care. I know, I see how I went with that. But she really is like, I love it. She's just like, do it if you want to. Don't worry about doing this. I love how real she is. And I think sometimes as primary care docs, we get a little in this fear mindset of, do we do this? Should we do this? When you have a specialist like that backing you up and saying, I'm here if you need me, but I know you got this and I'm teaching it to you right now. She just totally rocked it.
Absolutely. And she was speaking to me after the conference had ended that, it's really important for specialists to attend. And I agree with what she said. Specialists are in the environment that you were talking about just a few minutes ago, and they need to see that there's doctors who are in mostly direct primary care at this time in our culture, but that's definitely changing, like you said. But there's other doctors who are like, oh my God, you love medicine and you love your clinic and you also are able to be a parent or whatever the heck you want to do. Like, this is so cool. And so I think that's, one of the buy-ins for specialists to come, but then also, like you're talking about, when you are able to then be empowered to say, like, yeah, there's a way to do it in fee for service. And then there's also like actual things that we can do that won't put a person in bankruptcy and get, better results than what we would be able to order in fee for service. Those are 2 things that specialists can definitely benefit from. And I think also a big thing is, like Dr. Sulmal Modi, I remember when he started on social media, he's a neurologist. He's physically in one of the Carolinas. I think it's North Carolina, but he has licenses in different states. And he had helped me virtually with a patient. And, when he started engaging in social media, all of these people are like, oh, you need a neurologist? Contact Dr. Modi. So I think it's great for networking too. And I'm really grateful that we had specialists like Dr. Kinney who were talking to us about their specialty and about the most common things that she gets contacted about, because it really does, it says like, yeah, you guys are all doctors, like, here's the stuff that you can do and you're already doing. And let me just confirm that this is the workflow, or confirm that these are the things that I would do as well. And if you hadn't thought about these things, let's add those things on that I've listed here. But yeah, I would say that definitely there were aha moments. The first one I had when I was sitting and I was talking to Dr. Anand Mehta at the DPC Alliance table next to registration. And this doctor comes up and she's been in practice for a while. And we were talking about, she didn't think that there were other doctors in her state. I'm like, well, specifically, this was South Dakota. I was like, well, Dr. Lauren Scadam is doing OB-GYN in, now primarily GYN, in Rapid City. And then I was like, I was like getting to, I know it's an RC name, but I can't think of what it was. And I was saying these names and she's like, that's North Dakota. That's Bo. And I was like, dude, I was born in Sacramento. Like, I'm so sorry I went to Nebraska for school, but it's somewhere in South Dakota. And here's her episode and you should listen to it. But it was like, she wasn't aware that there were other doctors in South Dakota. And I was like, yes, now you are. Here's someone you can
because of the DPC directory. Bam.
That's,
Bam.
oh my goodness. That's a whole nother podcast. But oh man, the idea that people were coming with that interest that you and I had at one point, and now we see it in other people. It's so, oh God, it warms the soul to see someone who's like, but how do you, and they have that hesitancy in their voice, and you're like laying it out. Yeah. Like my EMR is not $40,000 a year. I'm literally getting paid talking to you right now. Like we're talking at dinner about doing a teddy bear clinic instead of diabetes. Like that was way more fun. And well, Haley Miller would disagree with me there, but when it comes to, wow, you can actually do it. And people are, taking their new family photos, meaning they've made new family members at the end of the conference. It was so cool. And I think that the energy, especially like people, when Dr. Neil Douglas was talking and, closing out the house with his story about Ethiopia and the acts that represented so much to him, my husband and I were in the back of the room and we were seeing people like, do the thing. And it was very so full. Like every single day there was at least one. I say that very, very lightly because there was definitely more than one, but there were lots. Let me put it that way. Lots of aha moments and you're right. It's not just the people who are new to the DPC Summit. It was also people who, like yourself and myself, who were like rejuvenated and inspired and educated differently than when we arrived. And I will say, because before we started recording, you and I were talking about your flippin' gorgeous space. Oh my God. Like everyone should go to Blair, Nebraska. It's so amazing. Like the last time I was there was 8 months ago. It's so sad. It's like not like that should never happen again. But when you were showing me your space, you were talking about how Dr. Natalie Gentili was like blowing your mind left and right in terms of like, hey, I feel empowered to do that in my space because you're already doing a lot of the services that she was talking about in her space.
Yeah, we're doing what she's doing, but what's crazy, and a lot of it was going to be put into action when the space is done and COVID has slowed us up. But when we open, we'll be able to. But it was really nice to hear her talk literally like 6 weeks before our building is finished, because we still have a little bit of room to wiggle. And it made me think about just a couple areas. And this is just different for me. Usually I like to hang all the stuff on the wall and, all the things. I like to have my space all homey. But I actually watched her talk and I loved that she kept things so clear and rolled things out and rolled things back. And it made me think, you know what? I'm not even going to buy all the stuff when we first open. I might just even leave some of these spaces open just to feel out what is this space going to bring for our town, education wise and exercise and how we want to use our new clinic. And so, yeah, I mean, even who would have known, even DPC is about decorating. You just don't know what it's going to bring. But the aha moments, and you named one of them with Neil, they aren't even just all medicine, right? They're also all human. Like you have those aha, oh my gosh, I'm a doctor, but I'm a human. We forget that so much. And it's talks like Neil's, where he brings home that DPC story that he lives every day. That is human. Or Esther, when she's up there telling us all about how she loves Ellen and Oprah, and she has us pulling stuff out from under our chair. Esther, that was epic, by the way.
But for those people who didn't attend 301, I have to go down there because it was it was epic. Like, so Dr. Katibi, she said, I have an Iranian and Persian background, and
she was hiding bombs under the chairs.
Yeah, she's like, oh yeah. And also, there's a sticker under one of your chairs, and whoever gets the sticker is the winner of an OB PAP light or a spec light. And the reason I told you about my ethnicity was I'm not installing bombs under your chair. I was like, oh my God, completely memorable moment. Like nothing to do with like anything about the cervix, but absolutely like rock star Dr. Katibi just got paid to say that. Oh my God, like mic drop, done.
I mean, you have all those things, right? You have talking about things that you actually know and love and make you who you are. And you don't go to your CME that we used to go to and have all these people be inspirational and tell little moments about themselves. You're like, all right, get this done so we can go out and skip a few lectures and play golf or, whatever it is, go hang out with our kids at the pool, is probably one of the only lectures you actually attend the whole thing, right? Or not the lectures, but the CME and, the full day where you're like, oh, I really don't want to go, but oh gosh, what do I do? So that speaks enough about DPC that you want to stay at the whole conference.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Have you tried an AI scribe in your clinic? Well, I've tried so many, and I can say Heidi Health is the best AI scribe I have come across thus far. With Heidi Health, I can create unlimited customizable templates for my notes to help me truly cut down on the time I'm spending charting. Template for pediatric well-child check? Done. Template for weight loss management? Done. Some of my favorite things I've built into my AI template, beyond the general soap note, are having a list of actionables for our team to take after a patient visit, having the diagnoses listed, and creating an after-visit summary for our patients. Not only have I found Heidi Health to be the most helpful, customizable AI scribe so far, it's also more affordable than most out there. So try Heidi Health today and see how you can harness the power of an AI scribe for your practice. To get an entire month of Heidi Pro free, go to the homepage of mydpcstory.com and click on the Heidi Health ad.
And I think that I would be hard pressed to find someone who went for the CME. They may have gone for the CME because they had a certain amount of dollars left in their budget and which conference do I attend. But I think that at the root of it, it's because I need to go to a DPC conference, not because how much CME am I going to get out of it. I have absolutely no idea how much CME, I literally, that is not something that I personally take into consideration when I'm going to conferences, because especially with DPC, it's I just need to be around other people who are in our ecosystem. And I will tell you, going back to the kudos given to the team who organized it, I was talking with Dr. Katie Liu, who was on Sunday. I'm looking at the schedule now, and she was right before Neil's talk, and she was doing
budgeting, right?
So she was doing facing fears of starting a DPC practice. Yeah. And we were talking about how genius that was to, especially because it was a 101 lecture, to come in from, these very first aha moments of attending your very first DPC summit to then having a doctor who's been in practice for many years, speak about facing your fears about DPC. And then, for these people who are attending 101s to be thinking about I've actually worked through this question this weekend. It's so strategic. I think that there must have been people in that audience who were literally having the self-talk of oh, you actually do know way more than you started 3 days ago or 2 days ago, And I think that was a really great way to end the 101 specific lectures, and that it's literally giving a person the freshest how to address those fears as they leave and go home. So I had to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great way to end it.
Other than sleeping, what have you done since you got back home from the summit?
Full disclosure, hanging out with my family. I planned ahead, and I had surgery that Friday before summit week. So I was supposed to be taking it easy. So the girl with stitches who's
you get in the car and I'll lift your luggage into the car. And Brooke was
geez, I wasn't thinking. It was one of those Nebraska moments where, if you've ever seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and you're from the Midwest and she birthed her first baby sideways, that kind of moment where it's oh, Maryal, jump in my Suburban. Let me throw this suitcase. Oh, that thing weighs 80 pounds. You're over the limit. And I just pulled a stitch.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, so I had planned ahead, and I had a very light day, Monday, Tuesday. So I had to see my newborn weight and color check from the baby I delivered that Tuesday morning before we left. And I saw that mom and babe. And then on Tuesday, today, I did 3 telehealth, but oh my gosh, I had 275 mentions I had to go through. So I literally was just sitting next to my nurse today, going through them in between us chatting and talking about other stuff and trying to get infamil samples and everything else. So we did a lot of housekeeping. I did a couple patient visits, but I tried to be with my kids because you know how that happens. They just start to act out, it's really about you and the fact that you left and we're gone for 5 days, enjoying all your friends. We hung out a lot, but tomorrow's a full day. We have aesthetics clinic, we have DPC clinic, and then roll into Thursday and Friday the same. So how about you? What'd you do?
So I needed to see my kids. And so today that resulted in, hey, like I texted you a picture of us because Asher and I, my 5-year-old, I was like, wait a minute. I really want fish tacos. And the best fish tacos on the planet Earth are in Murphy's, California. And that's where Asher's going to his summer school program. So I'm like,
oh, how convenient.
Yvonne, yeah, it was so convenient. I was like, Miss Yvonne, is it okay if I like take him out early to go to lunch? Like, I didn't even know what the rules are. I'm just like pulling up.
You might end up at sushi
early
in Minneapolis. Who knows?
Oh my God. You know it. But I will tell you, they do not have fish tacos at the sushi train next to the Hilton or wherever Hyatt in
I'd be a little sketch. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, we had ice cream and then we went to go find books and at the local bookstore. And then we came home to do Legos. And so like it was just like downtime, but downtime, like you're saying, with family is like totally what I needed. And that's another pro tip. Like a lot of people were chattering about, why did I schedule patients on my first weekday back? And like
one of the moms said, why did I schedule my kid's dentist appointment at 8:30? I'm like, this is classic. You know, this is the kind of thing I do. I am that mom at the dentist appointments yesterday, and they scheduled championship Little League baseball. Oh my gosh. And I have 2 sons that are playing actively. And I'm like sitting there in the 4:00 dentist appointment. I'm like, oh, one of them's got to be somewhere at 4:45 for the game. Can I run this one out and come back? And I'm like, thank God I live in a town of 6,000 people. Cause they're like, Dr. Beckenhauer, if you could just sign the consents before you leave, consent to treat. Oh yeah. And I'll pay too, because I'll probably forget that when I come back. So let's just get all the things done. But you know, that mom, whoever it was, I cannot remember. She is not alone. I didn't schedule it at the beginning. I scheduled it at 4, but I'm still that one running in and out, shuttling kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happening. That's real.
It totally is. And, you know, one thing I was glad about because, and clearly we have different patient populations in terms of sheer numbers of patients who are members. But what I will say is that I was very grateful that somehow some workflow somewhere is working and that we have the best nurse ever, because I come back and I was like, I don't want to check my messages. And I log in. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like 6 messages. And oh my gosh, I can assign all of these. Like I don't have to actively engage. Like none of the messages needed like I did not need my medical training to answer the messages, meaning medical training, thinking differentials, figuring out a plan, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do Legos without guilt tripping. Oh my God, it was so good. So yes, I totally like,
so I put the phone down.
Yeah, well, man, but I will say that, you know, evaluating like wherever you are in your practice, especially if you're like, you know, thinking about your workflows, whether you're just opened or, you know, you've been open for 10 years, like whatever it is. But when you have moments like that, where you're like, oh, next time I will, you know, not do this, or I will do this or whatever. Like the thing that I do is I go into like, I do things on my iPhone calendar. Like I will say, you know, like DPC Summit is literally from like June 15th to June 30th of next year. So I purposefully don't plan things in that block of time so that I'm able to be more flexible. Yeah. But when it comes to workflows, same thing.
That was a pro DPC tip right there.
Pro DPC tip, man. Pro DPC. Woo! Sorry. Didn't need that song, but I did.
Right. Took me back to the Hint Summit where you were on stage singing. Yeah. She sent me a video and my kids always ask to watch it again and again. So some days when we want to hear fight song and a little bit of pumped, Hank will say, Mom, put Maryal on. Put on the fight.
Sister, the lady at the ice cream store today was like, can you just stop singing? Like literally I was singing, looking at the ice cream menu board, and Asher was like, here dancing with me. I'm like, this is my fight song. And like the lady's like, I just need you to order so that I can get on with my day. Like I had that attitude look, and I was like, oh, excuse me, fight song is on and I will finish it and then I will order my ice cream. Thanks so much. But yeah, so ironic that I was like, oh, this is
I'm awesome. You shut your mouth. We're not talking about you right now.
Oh my God. But you can't not when Fight Song comes on, man, especially if you're a DPC doctor. Like that is one of the most, when I saw that on the menu of karaoke songs, I was like, oh, no. Yes, that's one. So anyways, if you haven't heard it, you have to Google Fight Song right now. But yes. So yeah, I'm glad that, we're readjusting to our lives back home geographically. But I think that it's even, especially this like right after time, this is the time to like also reach out to those contacts that you've made. So people's faces are fresh on your mind, people's conversations are fresh on your mind. And so you can continue that, because I will say that it's because, keeping those conversations fresh, that you build your little, even though we can intermingle and all this stuff, like you do build your super close knit like group or niche of friends that, like I remember I was like 6 months in or 9 months in, and I called Dr. Haley Miller and I was like, Haley, is it supposed to be like this? And she's like, oh girl, 3 months ago, literally, like, cause she was, 6 months or 9 months, whatever the benchmark was. She was like, yeah, I was there exactly the same place as you were exactly like 3 months ago. Oh, keep crying. Like, tell me all the things. And it was like, I'm normal. This is normal. But it's, entrepreneurship, like we both know, it's a roller coaster, but it's a different roller coaster.
Is this your plug of saying, don't shut off your DPC friends that
Dr.
you don't answer your phone for 2 months because you're isolating? Is this you saying, everyone should answer their phone? Yeah. I think that was your plug there. All right. We're going to roll into this menu here of schedule. I got to say a few things about this. So you were like me, you went to a lot of 301s. So, I don't have a lot to say about some of these 101, 201s, but I did step into some of them here and there. And I just think in general, these topics are fabulous. And gosh, Tammy, I was talking to her and she was telling me all about how they were blinded. And we just went with topics and educational material and all of this of like who would be speaking. And gosh, I just love, what all they picked. Some of them are duplicates, as far as some of the diagnoses, but people do things completely differently, right? Like there was our advanced clinical procedure one where I talked about joint injections, but then I went to Rob's fracture orthopedic and he's talking about joint injections. And, even though it's a little bit of a crossover, we do things differently. Yep. That was great. I love that. I also think that some of the topics, like dementia and physical fitness, I mean, these are great. And then you can turn around and know exactly how to run your clinic. I mean, who does this? This is awesome. I had some of the best moments though, listening to some of these patient flow talks and hearing how people bring patients into their clinic, like the order of how they do things, like somebody might sit down and do a one-on-one and make sure all expectations are set. Other people are like, yeah, I'm not calling everybody, but I love it. I love that because somewhere along the way, it makes you think about what you're doing and it might just reassure you that I like what I'm doing because I like how they're doing it too. Or, you might be like me and you're 1,000 people in and you're like, ooh, we better go back over some of these expectations, not because my patients like suck or they can't follow all the rules or they don't have boundaries, mostly because our practice has changed so much with every, say, 200 people or adding in our PA or adding in new staff and how they do things. Maybe some are texting, some are emailing. So now we have people not following text rules. Everything's always moving. And so I loved, some of the lines that people said over and over, like it's never too late to make changes in your practice, right? So those are some of those great things from that day one. I just loved day one was great. How about day two? What'd you think on that Saturday? That was a full day.
It was a full day. And I think that it was a reminder of how fast day one goes because it was like, oh my gosh, day two is already here. So I will say that, that
kick off with you on Saturday morning, man, you came out with only 1 hour of sleep and you were just, in everybody.
It was so good. And, I get it was
too.
It was a sorry, not sorry moment, a true sorry, not sorry moment that it was like, well, you asked me to moderate at 8 o'clock in the morning first thing. This is what you get. Thank you very much.
Get what you get. You don't throw a fit.
What you get, man. But I loved that. And we were a well-oiled machine. We practiced beforehand because we wanted to make sure that we got in the points that we wanted to when we were talking about a panel of boundaries, but also that we had time for questions. And, it was really important, I think, to talk about boundaries. Again, it was genius scheduling, in my opinion, because it was like, okay, we're going to talk about boundaries with all the stuff that you've now thought about from day one. Now we're going to talk about how to, honor yourself and remember that if you're the doctor running the clinic, that you don't want to be creating a clinic where you're going to create burnout for yourself in whatever way, shape, or form that takes. And so then going into the rest of the day,
But I have to step back 1 second on yours and say, Liz Fisher up there, with all those docs, and she's telling it from a different perspective for her husband and her family. She got a little teary-eyed. She pulled at me a little bit too, just because, watching how much the people in your life, not just you, are feeling pain, trying to figure out what to do and how to take care of patients on your terms, but watching her start to get teary-eyed over just the compassion for her husband and wanting him to have success in his own way. That's also what helped them set missions for their clinic on how are we going to run this clinic. And I think that was inspirational too. And so that was good to have her on the panel and have a little bit of a difference there of the outsider's view. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'm really glad. And I agree, the fact that she was a co-founder and she has an MBA under her belt, and the fact that she's experienced, medicine from her husband's world of fee for service, and then being the one who read it in medical economics about DPC and like envisioning something better for herself, her husband, and their family. It was absolutely inspirational. And I think that, that emotion definitely comes from having stories of our own that we came to think about while she was talking, while all the speakers were talking, Dr. Dakota Ryan, Dr. Rob Rosper, and Dr. Christina Gonzalez. But yeah, I think that that's, again, another marker of like, this is not a regular doctor's conference. And for me, I went into after our talk, I went up to Dr. Phil Hellman's lecture, and I'm like, I literally asked him, I was like, are you a DPC doctor? Because I was there like, I've never heard of this cardiologist. Like and he was like, I totally forgot to introduce
myself.
Still
own it, because he probably said, why, yes, I am cardiology.
It was mind blowing. I told my husband, I was like, okay, now we're like, this is like, I literally am obsessed with everything that he talked about. And like you talked about when you talk about, or when you mentioned the joint injection coming from different perspectives. Yeah. He was followed up by Dr. Natalie Gentili, and he was talking about lifestyle from a totally different perspective. And this is, after in day one, Dr. Ryan Neuhoffel was talking about lifestyle in a different perspective, like totally different perspectives of how to, like you're saying, incorporate lifestyle medicine into your practice. Not about lifestyle medicine. There was definitely some of that, but it was then how to actually get it in the day-to-day. And I think that it was really great that Dr. Filescu also was in the 101 section, because people need to know what their options are, what their freedoms are when it comes to DPC in their state, or restrictions, because especially if you're starting out, that's not always something. Like the person from South Dakota, I was like, you need to talk to people in your state because it's a new thing. And I can speak for California. I cannot speak for South Dakota. So yeah.
That's why Tammy's was a great one to follow. If no one has been to hers, make sure they watch it online when these all come out, because she does a great job with HIPAA, OSHA, CLIA, answering all those questions and what that looks like. I went to her lecture last year. Great job. Always good. And you can't be Esther's name at your cervix. I mean, come on, that lecture just cracks me up. Yeah. And like Laura Kinney was in there. You talked about for HEMONC and Preach What You Practice, social media. Phil is from Nebraska. So Huskers. And he does a great job on social media. Sometimes I pull him up and just watch him, do the ear piercing and all kinds of stuff. Who has time for all that? I don't know. But I was at we threw my parents a 50th wedding anniversary in May. And one of my friends from high school, her sister came up to me and she said, and this doesn't happen every day, right? And she's like, Amber, I just wanted to let you know that because of you having a DPC and they just had their first baby, she said, we looked up a DPC doctor next to us and we drive 45 minutes to see him and we just love him. It's great. Like, this is the way medicine should be. And I'm like, okay, you don't hear this every day, right? That's awesome. You're impacting people upon people upon people that you don't even know people. It is great. It is great. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you got your medication dispensing, those talks are always good. People have all the questions, usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. She
just needs to write a book. Is that a good answer? She just needs to write a book.
Well, I tell Dr. Clodagh Ryan all the time that people want to know what she has to say and what her experience is from taking care of the patients she has, from her family that she's talked about. It's literally, it's like reading about DPC and living and then talking about DPC. Like, the passion and dedication that she has to serving her patients in the best way possible. And in her case, especially with mental health, mm-hmm. which is so desperately needed by every single patient and every single person in this world.
Oh, especially after COVID, everybody.
Oh my goodness. COVID, yeah. Right? And it was so interesting to hear, the data that she had in her lectures, but also her genius of using the Harry Potter, like, who do you think this character is? It really gave examples that were things that would stick in your head. And then she just kept on giving you tips and pearls. And then when her slides were talking about specifically, if a person like this comes to you, these are the diagnoses, or these are the
form, diagnostic. Right? Yeah. Our ADD brains were like, okay, not a big long paragraph. It's like ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. And it was these are the forms that would be the highest yield for you to screen this type of patient. If Hagrid walks into my office, I know, blah, blah, blah. Thank you to Dr. Clodagh Ryan. It was incredible. And yep. I will back up there for a second, though, when you're talking about impacting people, and even just the example about sharing about how that patient decided to go to a DPC doctor, Dr. Phil Boucher, mm-hmm. Dr. Nick Krozik and his wife, Nikki. I had met them last year at the summit in Kansas City. But he said to me something that was very, very touching. And I want to mention this because this is literally all of us when we tell people about DPC. He said, he was talking to me about the podcast, but he was like, it's great. All the people you touch, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I am so appreciative when all of these doctors were coming up and saying it's because of you, your story of blah, 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 that, we heard about, blah, blah. And it's that's great. But he said to me, no, but I'm not talking about the doctors. I'm talking about all of the patients that each doctor takes care of. And so that's every single one of us. You have
got a little goosebumps
you have over 1,000 patients who have moms and dads and babies and cousins and blah, blah, blah. That was so memorable and so touching. That was my aha moment, so I will...
Of that funny world, because there was a few people on stage even this week that had said something like, oh, my parents are taken care of by this DPC doctor or whatever. And it made me think, I was like, it's so wild, because it does happen. Yeah. Because no joke, I mean, hopefully not TMI, but I was in the ER early May and I was in there. No, this is just crazy. The ER doctor's coming to discharge me. She's like, oh, I looked at your imaging, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to send you home, follow up. And then she comes back in the room and she said, oh, I'm sorry, I have to call a consult in because I just got a phone call from the radiologist, which apparently you take care of their parents. And he told me that I can't send you home without a consult. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I was out the door, and I am not kidding you. He told her, she takes care of my patients. I can't let her go home without a consult first. And I was like, who does this? How does this happen? Classic. Worked in traditional medicine for 8 years before I went to DPC. And now I'm stuck in jail in the ER because I take care of this person's parents and they're worried about me. But it goes to show that your patients are worried about you too. I was telling you about having to email mine and just let them know, okay, if I die in surgery, this is what's going on, because I hadn't told anybody I was having anything. And they're I have cards at my house. I have emails back. I have people dropping things off. It is a relationship, definitely, between both of us. And all we impact and then how we impact each other. It's amazing.
I'm going to throw it back in your face like a virtual pie, like, and your DPC sister over here, like trying to text you and make sure you're okay, because you also impact so many goddamn people, throughout the years that you've been doing this. I am so grateful to know you and to call you my CALI-BRASKA sister, because like literally,
Love you.
the conversations that we've had over the years, like, I was mentioning Dr. Haley Miller, same thing. Like there's conversations where talking to our DPC family really makes a difference when it comes to like getting through certain times. Like, how do you work through like losing a patient? How do you work through having to take time off? How do you work through blah, blah? It's like, just ask and someone will be able to talk with you about it.
Asking is so hard, but we are getting better about that, right? We are getting better. But yeah, I know, because I was telling you before we got on the podcast, is that it's like a proud parent moment when I'm watching you talk to all these people at the conferences, because I can remember where I was sitting in my house when we were talking on the phone. You're like, I have this idea. I know it's crazy because I don't even have my direct primary care open yet. So I'm probably not the person, right? And you're telling me all the whys and why nots. And I'm like, yep, sorry. Yep, you're doing it. Yep. Yeah. And then watching that grow, and you work through those hardships of doing all those steps on your own and trying to figure out somebody to help you. And I just love sitting there at those conferences, watching these people come up to you like giddy little kids and introduce themselves. And I'm like, oh, I'm like the mom. I get to watch her just like totally, enjoy all these moments she's worked so hard for. So, I mean, there's so many different perspectives of these conferences, of these patient panels, of these clinics. And yes, we are very much family. These things are cool. Yeah, they really are. So on that last day, family, Neil wraps up with his family, and, not all of us have physicians in our family, our parents, and to hear how he admires his father, but knows, hey, he was never there, but still he admires him and everything he's been taught, but says, but I want to do it differently, and I always tell him, I don't even know how he gets things done, because for Pete's sake, I could never have my kids running in and out, which he told me the funniest story. And I don't even know if I should air it, but his his son walked in with something during a patient appointment the other day. And Neil was like, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. And I just think it's so funny, because that's what would happen to me. And that's why I'm like, no, you cannot come over during workday. Mom cannot have this happen in a town of 6,000. But I just really enjoyed his talk. It was phenomenal. And then you have your speaker town halls of starting, growing, your strategies for success. You had Clodos speak again. You have alternative medicine in there. And then you were talking about the facing fears, which totally resonated with people. And I was on the road by that time, but I'm watching the financial one from the road. And that was great, because some people don't even have a financial advisor at this point, right? So that was good. And I didn't get to watch Tiffany and Jax, but I will when it comes out. Well, I guess I can't watch that one when it comes out. That's the bummer of this. Yeah. I think there's a bummer or a letdown in any of this. It is that the 301s aren't taped.
Well, I will say that you hit on something that was it was like a bittersweet thing there, because you were literally physically not in Minneapolis, but you were able to still attend, just like the people who are attending 100% virtually were able to do. But the fact that you were just able to like pivot, that's a really big win for this year's summit, because, like I was talking to somebody about FMX and how, different states and different cities have different union rules. But like one of the dreams that I was talking to somebody about AAFP FMX was the ability to podcast the lectures such that you could literally be like breastfeeding your baby in your hotel room, and you're like, and I'm in lecture. Like that is so empowering.
I didn't get to speak with Amy Walsh enough. She didn't get to come, for very much, but, usually she's up there speaking. She has great knowledge, and I love hearing from her. And I didn't even get to hang out with her, let alone hear her speak. But I talked to her in the lobby as I was leaving, carrying like 15 bags. And, because I packed.
You weren't supposed to with your stitches. Oh my gosh.
Right. And I'm talking to Amy, and that is one thing she hit on. She's like, I loved it. She said, even if I wasn't in the actual speech or the actual session, she said she had her AirPods in the whole time. listening to lectures, even when she was out just roaming around or trying to, get through whatever she was trying to, it doesn't matter, transportation or grabbing lunch. Like, she's like, I didn't miss one. I just had them in. And I was like, you know what, that is genius. She just kept going with the whole thing. She never missed a beat. So yeah, I mean, the opportunities there are endless, no matter where you're at. That's what's funny about Phil is, so Brooke, our receptionist and like office admin that came with us, she has known me since we were 8. We've been best friends forever. And we've known each other way longer, but best friends since 8. And she's standing there watching Phil and I talk like hormones and different type of like medications and COVID and what happened then. And like, we just weren't stopping talking. We're just standing there in the hallway by the elevator. And I keep telling him, my feet hurt. I got to get out of these heels. And he just keeps talking all this medicine. And I'm like, oh, dang it, I'm going to keep talking because I love talking with you. And we walk away and she's like, oh my gosh, my mind just exploded. She's like, watching you two talk, she's like, it is crazy. You just one right after another. And, we can debate back and forth in a very positive way because we can hear each other, hear ideas, come back with other things than the whys of how we do things individually. But him and I just have a flow of being able to be like, okay, yeah, I totally get why you would do that. And thank you for that knowledge right there. And then we throw it back. And I totally agree. He is just, vast knowledge and just an easy person to hear, listen to.
Yeah. Like literally that it was like med school in a good way. Cause we all know like those lecturers who are like, oh no, they're talking today. Like I'm going to catch up on my sleep. But I literally was like, I thought he was a cardiologist when he was just like a direct cardiologist, specifically because he was talking in a way that was super digestible, super detailed, super informative, and super helpful for when you return back home and you get your next like cardio IQ in front of your face. But I was blown away. Again, I can imagine the description that was blinded when his submission was looked at and, chosen, that it must have been incredible because like that lecture was probably my favorite of all of them in terms of the sheer knowledge that was there.
You mean no snoozing? Here's my virtual pie. No snoozing for you during that one?
Oh, no. I really had a hard time post lecture. I post lunch because I like sour cream. So it was very difficult for me. Like, it was very difficult. Oh, that's me being transparent. Thank you.
I don't know that sour cream puts anybody to sleep, but you maybe.
My son is telling my son he was dipping his cookie in sour cream and saying, Mama, it tastes like a sour cookie. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I don't care as long as you eat. Like you eat whatever the heck you want, man. See, but you're my son. You love sour cream too. Yes. Well, with that, the amazing DPC Summit is going to be missed until next year. And
did you hear it's in CALI-BRASKA next year?
Oh my God. I wish it were in CALI-BRASKA. Then we could go to the Henry Doily Zoo and everyone could understand why Maryal sits
at the Doily Zoo. Yeah. Or my clinic, since it is the Henry Doily Zoo. So I got leopards and cheetahs and peacocks and you name it.
She literally, her gorgeous, and if you go to the Healthy Human DPC socials, you can see some of these things. But we were joking that Dr. Beckenhauer has a whole zoo in her clinic because it's like this.
I like animal print. I might not be PETA's friend, but I like animal print.
I love it. Oh my goodness!
But I will be an interior designer in my next life.
I love it. Well, I just told Dr. Christina Doll that she should be an interior designer. And she said, well, people ask me all the time if I can design their space. And so I need their measurements of their rooms and then I will help them. But I said, you also need to get paid for that. So you can totally do a side job of being a interior designer. Literally, I just said that. Oh my God. In addition to being a DPC doctor.
Well, I'm telling you what, Chip and Joanna Gaines, they better watch out because Jeremy and I got this in the bag after 3 clinics.
Oh, man.
But you can guarantee if we're going to the great big state of Texas, maybe.
Yes.
I'm going to stop through Waco on the way by.
Go to Magnolia. Okay. Yep. So this is me talking out loud, but okay. So since DPC Summit is 2 weeks on my calendar in June, like this is the type of stuff I think about. Like, okay, what could we do to go to Magnolia with you guys? Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And fangirl over Joanna Gaines.
Did you just send the podcast to Joanna so she shows up to meet all of us DPC docs?
Oh,
you better have a DPC doc. for
She
her
better
family.
have with all the DPCs in freaking Texas. She better have a DPC.
And it better be Neil Douglas, because with his pink farmhouse, she and him, they would be on that same chord. It would just work. Yeah.
Oh my God. It would be a pink shiplapped farmhouse by the time she's done with it. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. We got to go to bed. It's 10:45 Nebraska time.
I know. It's crazy, crazy. Well, I love you lots. And I hope that people just got some fun out of this podcast and just some inspiration to put the dates, the last 2 weeks in June, on their calendar. And if you had those nagging thoughts about like, oh, I wish I would have got, that's fine. Have those nagging thoughts, but plan for 2024. And with that,
maybe 2 weeks out, a couple months from now, so you can spend time watching those 101s, 201s, because you know it never happens.
Super smart. Super, super smart. I love that you said that. So thank you for mentioning that.
Because we always, I'll go back and watch it. But for those that didn't come, maybe that hopefully would be a pearl for this year, is that if you didn't make it, block that out, just like you're going to block out sometime in June. So then that way you actually do a little CME.
Yeah.
Or not CME, whatever, learning, whatever.
All of the above.
Yep.
Well, from CALI-BRASKA to your state, wherever you may be, good night. Good luck. See you later. Peace out.
Hey, peace out.
Next week, as I'll be coming back from co-emceeing Health Rosetta's Rosetta Fest, we'll be bringing a special episode where Dr. Bradley Block, host of the Physician's Guide to Doctoring podcast, asks me about what does DPC mean to me and why am I so passionate about this movement of physician-led care. If you've enjoyed the podcast and you haven't yet done so, subscribe today and share the episode with a physician you may know who needs to hear about DPC. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify now as well, as it helps others to find all these DPC stories. Lastly, be sure to follow us on social media. If you're wanting to continue learning more about DPC in the meantime, check out dpcnews.com. Until next week, this is Maryal Conception.